Way too many people show you pay statements and they only show you one or two. They show you the good ones. They cherry pick them. They don't show you the pay statement where the person went home. In this particular case, I was home Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Didn't roll till Wednesday. Drove on Wednesday and Thursday. Early Friday morning, I delivered the load. And then I picked up another load that won't deliver until the next week. So this is going to be one of those pay statements that's low. And it's important that you look at multiple pay statements or look at the year-to-date information when you're comparing about a company that you're considering going to. Because too many people are going to cherry pick out just the best pay statements. Let's talk about this week coming up. Just like in that Alabama song, Roll On, I found myself leaving before the sun, 01:30 Eastern Time. I did have a 1-hour time zone advantage, but I used that extra time as leeway in case I should run into a problem. I also had a fuel stop on the way. I was going to fuel in Birmingham. This stop is going to be in Byhalia, Mississippi. This delivery is one where I'm actually meeting Crown, so I have a 0800 Central Time appointment. I worked my arrival just before 8 a.m. because I knew the Crown techs would show up at 8. Worked out perfectly. Took less than 2 hours to get these items unloaded, and yes, this was on-duty time on my logbook because I was in the back of the trailer assisting with the unloading. I had to knock the blocks out and pull the nails and sweep the floor. That's all on-duty time. I received my next pickup, which is Crossville, Tennessee. Unfortunately for me, Crossville, Tennessee is about an hour beyond the amount of time I have on my drive clock left for the day. So I'm going to have to find a place to park and wait until the next morning to go there, which is going to mean I'm going to have about a 16-hour break. I like 10-hour turn and burn. Didn't work out. One of the things I tell you is always make sure that you pick a place you're going to be able to get out of in the morning. I purposely picked this spot because I want to be able to get out easily in the morning after this place is full. That first place that I did a pull through on looked like it would be a good spot until I went through the space and realized that somebody's going to be parked sideways across alongside that scale. And when they do that, it's going to make it difficult for me to get out. So Shadydale to Birmingham, Alabama to Byhalia, Mississippi to Gordonsville, Tennessee made for a pretty full day. Let's look at the log. When we look at the log, we can see my pre-trip right here. We can see where I was driving until I got to Birmingham, Alabama. I was on duty when I fueled. Then I went off duty when I went inside to get a good cup of coffee. Then there was another time where I stopped and took a brief break in the sleeper berth. That's where I went ahead and had my breakfast because I had enough time that I wasn't going to have any problem being late to my appointment. Then when I got to my appointment, you can see I was in the on-duty yard move briefly, then in the on-duty while I was there. Like I said, I was actually working. I was removing blocks. There's another brief off-duty. That's probably where I stopped for a pit stop. Then that last on-duty is where I did my post-trip before going into sleeper berth and taking a well-deserved sleep. I wound up with 10 hours and 56 minutes of drive time. That's really good because 11's the max. I got 680 miles and I had an hour and 33 minutes of on-duty time not driving. Why did I show you the logbook page? I showed you the logbook page to tell you that you can make a good living even being honest in your log. We don't have to do all those hooks and crooks here at Cheeseman that they do at a lot of other places. Tell the truth in your log. It works out. Just a little over an hour after I left there, I reached Crossville, Tennessee. Got to Crossville, Tennessee, and I encountered something we don't have very often. I wound up getting detention. We don't get detention a lot. The reason we don't get detention a lot is because we're not detained. It's not that they don't pay it, because they certainly do pay detention. They just don't like us to be detained. They'd rather us be moving. This particular shipper had a full load, which means they have 2 hours to get me loaded, and it took them about 4. Now, in this case, after being on duty for the check-in, I was in sleeper berth. The reason I was in sleeper berth is because that is where I was at. There's nothing I can do to help load this particular load. After getting the load picked up, I skedaddled to get to Greencastle, Indiana. That's where I'm delivering this, to a manufacturing plant in Greencastle, Indiana. I got there, we opened the fence. Once I get the fence open, I'm going to get around the back and I'm going to drop the trailer. After I drop the trailer, before I picked up my new trailer that I'm taking to Fort Recovery, Ohio, I made the decision that I really wanted to have a salad. I don't know why, but I really wanted a salad with some Thousand Island dressing. So I went ahead and used the personal conveyance mode to leave Bobtail to run a couple of miles up the road to the Walmart so that I could pick up a salad and some Thousand Island dressing. This this is a proper use of personal conveyance. You are allowed to use personal conveyance if you're doing something that is not for the company. And going to Walmart to get me some salad was not for the company. I've made the trip from Greencastle to Fort Recovery so many times that you know when you're not going to make it. You always have a backup plan. My backup plan, number one backup plan, is Walmart in Portland. I know that it takes 20 to 22 minutes from Portland to get to Fort Recovery. I only had 17 minutes left on my clock, and this particular Walmart allows truck parking. I'm not going to be looking at every log, but I'm going to show one more log just to show today's log and how it went. This is where I started out. I did my pre-trip. Then the next on duty is when I checked in and backed up to the dock at the shipper. I was in sleeper berth at this particular shipper because that's where I was at. There's no reason for me to be on the dock because it's a full load and it's not anything that needs to be secured. When they were done loading, I went on duty briefly and then took off on to drive. You can see the yard move where I dropped my trailer and where I picked up my trailer, and then the PC in between where I went to Walmart. I wound up with 10 hours and 45 minutes of drive time on the 11-hour limit. And then I had an hour and 20 minutes of on-duty times, covered 625 miles. Taking a look at the log page, we had 1,911 dispatched miles, 2,600 logged miles, 2,602 odometer miles. Again, how is it possible to have so many more logged and odometer miles than dispatched miles? Well, it's again a run that carries over to the next week. I have a run that carries over and won't deliver until Monday. The delivery cutoff is Saturday night. It's time to look at my unedited pay statement for the fourth period of 2023. This is the period that ended on January 21st, 2023. Due to home time, there's only one run on this pay statement, and that run went from Fort Recovery, Ohio back to Fort Recovery, Ohio. It had stops in Shadydale, which is my home, Byhalia, Mississippi, Crossville, Tennessee, and Greencastle, Indiana. This run paid $1,346 for 1,911 miles, or 70.4 cents per mile. All right, let's zoom in on the summary box. The summary box, we had $52 in detention pay. Remember, I mentioned that detention earlier. It's rare, but it happened. $211 in empty miles, $34 handling and securement, $995 for loaded miles, $54 in stop pay. That totaled $1,346 for 1,911 miles, or 70.5 cents. $1,346 is definitely low for me. That is a low week. Doesn't happen very often, but we don't look at these things on a week-by-week basis. We look on an average. Okay, time for the calendar page. When we take a look at the calendar page, you can see that I had 3 days off at the beginning of this week. Only worked 4 days. A couple of those days resulted in carryover. Now, taking a look at the week, there have been 21 days in the month of January. I've worked 15 of those days, 71%. I was home for 5 days of that, 24%, and had an on-the-road reset for 1 day. The first week of this year, I made $21.46. The second week, I made $23.96. The third week, I made $22.92. And the fourth week, I made $13.46. We're 4 weeks in, so let's take a look at it. Gross income was $81.80. Total miles, 10,510. Average gross was $2,045. Average miles, 2628. That's per week. So when we take an annual estimation on that by multiplying it by 52, I should be at $106,340, 136,656 miles, or 77.8 cents per mile. We'll keep track of this as the year progresses.
Wait a minute. Hold everything. Is Tom in a day cab? Does he have a back window in his truck? I do. We're going to talk about that next week. Look, people, I love what I do. I enjoy this business. I enjoy the industry. I love the company that I work for. And that's why I'm not afraid to tell people about the company I work for. But I also understand that Cheeseman is not the best fit for everyone. Every time I hear a driver say, you should come here, and if you don't come here, you don't know business, I just look at them because they don't know that individual. Every person is in a different situation. Some people need to be home more often. Some people need to be home less. Some people need to be able to drive 70 miles an hour to get as many miles as possible. Some people want to drive 55 and save the fuel. Every situation is different. And just because you don't do it the same way I do doesn't mean you're an idiot. Doesn't mean you're not making good decisions. You're making the decisions that work for you. And I'm not going to belittle you for the decisions that you make. And neither should you take that from anyone else. I don't just refer people to Cheeseman. I also know a couple other companies that are good companies, and I tell people about it. And I connect people with people who are at those companies. Again, I don't get anything for that. I've been offered it. I've declined it. I'm not interested in doing it for the money. I'm looking at it a way that we can come up with something for drivers, referring drivers to good companies. There's too many of these companies out here that are fly-by-night companies, and we got too many fly-by-night YouTubers who come out here and start telling you this is the best thing since sliced bread. You sign up for it and you find out that the bread's a little moldy. I got to tell you, it's different for every person. I know companies that are salary. I know companies that pay hourly. I know companies that pay a percentage. And of course, there's CPM. The best option is different for every single person. Some people need more home time. Some people need less home time. There's people who live in the truck and never go home. Then, of course, there's those black ops companies out of Illinois, the ones that'll fix your logbook for you and give you plenty of time. That may be the right answer for some people. You can't tell somebody they don't know what the hell they're doing and that they're not picking the best alternative for them because you're not them. Just like tax advice. I never give people tax advice because everyone's tax situation is different. My percentage of taxes withheld is different than everyone else's because I opt to have a certain percentage taken out. That's something that every one of us needs to think about on our own and consult with a professional. I'm telling you, this is a great industry. You can make good money at it, but you got to look at every bit of advice that you get and try to figure out if it's good for you, what the person who's giving you the advice is getting out of it. I don't hide what I get. I don't hide it at all. I get good referral bonuses if you come to Cheeseman, but we don't have a lot of trucks. Our trucks are pretty much full. If you live in the right area and they happen to have a truck available, it will work out for you. I can't promise. I'm just telling you to make sure that you're enjoying every day at work. And we're going to talk about that day cab situation next week.